In this video, I want to talk about multiple offers, more specifically from the buyer side, how we're going to write your offer, how we're going to make it stand out amongst all of the other offers that we have. If you're interested in the offer process as a whole, I would recommend you watch my other video here or here, and it's on multiple offers, but from the seller's side. Okay, so I think watching both of these videos is going to give you a pretty good, well-rounded idea of how the sellers are positioning themselves for multiple offer, and then as well for this video, how the buyers, how I can help my buying clients position themselves so that they stand out amongst all the other interested parties. Calgary's market is hot and has continued to run hot pretty much since the start of the pandemic. Although interest rates have slowed things down slightly, at the lower price points, we're still seeing a lot of competition. And that means multiple offers, especially for the properties that look real sharp and are priced well. So how do you as a buyer make sure that your offer stands out if there's 3, 4, 5 other parties that are also interested in the property? You need to put your best foot forward. And when I say that, there's a lot that goes into putting your best foot forward. Number one, I would say start by working with a real estate agent. The reason being, in these multiple offer situations, there's a lot of tiny nuances in a transaction or in negotiations that take place, and it could be one small detail that makes the difference between your offer getting accepted and someone else's. We do this on a regular basis. Myself personally, I feel like I've been involved in multiple offers for the last 3 years straight, whether it's on the buying side or the selling side. I have a lot of experience, and I'm going to impart that on you now. So hopefully when you do find your dream home, you're ready to go and you're ready to write that offer that gets accepted. You're gonna need to give the possession day that the sellers are asking for, okay? This is gonna be a really important piece for the sellers. And for you as a buyer, this is where working in a seller's market, you need to have a little bit of flexibility. The sellers are looking for a 30-day closing. We need to make sure that you're ready to purchase in 30 days. If they want a longer closing, like 90 or 100 days, we need to have you in a position, again, where your pre-approval is good until that closing day so that you are giving the seller as much as possible. You're giving the seller everything that they're looking for in an offer. And the easiest thing that doesn't actually cost you a dime is giving the sellers the possession day they're looking for. When it comes to actually writing the offer, we want to have only the necessary terms and conditions in there, okay? Nothing additional, nothing that's going to stand out, nothing that's going to be honestly a headache for the sellers to have to deal with. So we need to figure out exactly what terms and conditions you absolutely need and what else is maybe a negotiable, and maybe we can find a way to work around those, leave those off the offer, and again, have the cleanest, simplest offer to present to the sellers. Conditions that are very typical with a purchase contract are going to be a financing condition and of course a property inspection condition. If you're buying a condo or a townhouse, we're also going to see a condo doc review condition. Those three are fairly important for a lot of reasons. Depending on your profile as a buyer, you may be able to drop some of these conditions. I think that when it comes to condos, a condo doc review is almost a non-negotiable. We need to have that in place. You cannot tell the financial health of a condo by recent sales or by asking the seller how things are with the condo, regardless of how long they've lived there. We need to look at the financials, we need to look at the budget, and we need to look at the meeting minutes to see how this condo is run. So if you're buying a condo, you absolutely, in my opinion, have to have a condo doc review condition in there. But what we can do is, instead of having it 2 weeks out, we can have it nice and tight. We can have it maybe at 5 days. Again, just to give the sellers a little bit of optimism that, hey, we're trying to get this deal done, but we do need to do some due diligence first. Now, this depends on the type of property that you're buying. And of course, how comfortable you are with home renovation or projects around the house yourself. A property inspection is going to tell you a lot about a home, but if we are in a multiple offer situation and we're competing against other buyers, this is one of the quickest ways to really improve your offer, and that's to write without a property inspection condition. Now, this is not for everybody, okay? If this is your first property and you don't know much about home renovation, if at all, if you have a very tight budget, then you're probably not the person that I would recommend to not write with this condition. But if you're a little bit handy, if you've got some extra cash on the side, and of course we've gone through the property and we say, you know, this looks like it's in pretty good shape, dropping that condition is a pretty good way to make your offer stand out above somebody else's. And again, if we have to have that condition on there, we want to set up the inspection really quick. We probably want to do it in 3 or 4 days. Show the seller that we're serious, that we just want to check a couple things like head up in the attic and check out the roof real quick, the big ticket items. And quite honestly, if the seller knows they're selling a good quality property, an inspection shouldn't be too scary for them to begin with. If we're looking at you buying an investment property or a fixer-upper, something that you're going to be doing renovations to regardless, now maybe we're talking about you being a candidate for not having that property inspection condition because you're going to be pulling out walls, you're going to be updating electrical anyways. So, really, what are we going to find that's going to be so detrimental to your purchase that, that we absolutely had to have that inspection? So that's one way that we can really improve your offer, is dropping that inspection condition. And the third of the 3 fairly typical conditions that we see is, of course, a financing condition. Very few people, to me, meet the qualifications of not writing with a financing condition. I think it's very important to have that in place. We absolutely want to make sure that your lender is good to lend on this property. But what we can do is make sure that we've done our due diligence ahead of time. I always preach the importance, regardless of what market we're in, that buyers have a pre-approval in place. And in this hot sellers market, a pre-approval is more important than ever. Okay, so we need to know how long you're approved for, what rate, what price point, so that when we write on a property and we have a 5-day financing condition on there, we know that we can take that offer to your lender, and your lender is going to have to check a couple more boxes and we're going to be good to go. If it gets to a point where we need to have 2 weeks on a financing condition and we're competing against 5, 6, 7 other offers, unless our price is far above the next closest offer, a long condition period is going to be pretty unattractive to sellers. So we need to have that timeline as tight as possible, and that's going to give you as a buyer the best opportunity to nab a property. The candidates that I've worked for that write without a financing condition would be people that are cash buyers, okay? People that we see buying fix and flips, people that are buying the property based on its land value. They've got a lot of cash, they're going to be doing a lot of renovations. There's a lot of confidence in their ability to close. Maybe they're not even getting a mortgage on the property. Then we can talk about not writing with a financing condition. But I would say that for 90% of the buyers out there, we do want to have that financing condition. We'll just have it nice and short in order to keep our offer as clean as possible. Now, this is something that I get from my buying clients a lot when I'm talking about how we can tighten up our offer, how we can have, as few conditions as possible, give the seller the possession date that they're looking for. A buyer will typically say to me, well, what happens when we're going up against somebody that's writing an unconditional offer? And my response is, if you are unable to write an unconditional offer yourself, we pretty much need to set that aside and not worry about it and not stress about it, because at the end of the day, we can't compete with that. The holy grail in multiple offer situations for a seller is receiving an unconditional offer. Basically, once that offer is signed, the house is sold and the process is complete. So as a seller, that's absolutely what they're looking for, but it's not always the case that we see that. So I think as a buyer, yes, it's a possibility that you could be beat out by that. But again, it's a very small segment of the population that's able to write those offers. And if you do get beat by an offer like that, unfortunately, that is the market that we're in, and we just have to keep searching and move on to the next property. So try not to get too distracted about what might happen. What we do is just keep you as hyper-focused on your own offer as possible. Another awesome thing that we can do on your offer is we can personalize. I, myself, in the negotiations can talk a little bit about who you are as a buyer, whether you're going to be renovating the property, whether you're going to be tearing it down. These are things that sellers can care about, that there's an emotional attachment to the property. And if your offer is neck and neck with someone else's and one person's going to tear the property down and you're deciding that you'd like to renovate it and live in it for years to come, the seller may see that as more favorable and decide to go with your offer. Now, just because we include a letter, maybe a handwritten note from the buyers, just because we do that doesn't mean that the sellers are going to take your offer if it's $10,000 lower. At the end of the day, money talks, but if you're close, if we're neck and neck with another offer and I can give you the tiniest little edge, I'm all for it. So we've talked about how to write your offer, right? How to have it as clean as possible, the main conditions that we will have or not have on the offer. But what sells the property in the end is the price. That's what the sellers want, is the price. They want the highest price, and you as the buyer, of course, we want to try to get you the property for the best price possible. So this kind of goes into the preparation stage of when we're doing our research on this home. How this typically will work is a property will get listed on a Thursday or a Friday. They'll have an open house on the weekend, and the sellers will be entertaining offers with their realtor, say Saturday night or Sunday afternoon. So we will have some time leading up to this, knowing that we're going to be competing with some other buyers. So of course, we're going to have your offer looking clean and tidy, and we're going to have that, maybe that handwritten note in there as well. But we need to determine the price. And my office, CIR, has actually put together some pretty awesome stats on how we see that price move higher than list price, depending on how many offers are on a property. But I still think that most importantly, we need to keep your budget in mind, and we also need to keep the home's value in mind. I've certainly seen a lot of properties get bid up with multiple offers, like 10, 15 offers, and we see people get all sorts of crazy and overspend on a property. And that may be okay for some people if they're planning to live there for 25 years, but on average, we see people live in a property for 4 to 7 years, and then there's turnover, and overspending on the purchase can really hurt you down the road. So my goal for working with you as a buyer is to determine what we think this property is worth, and cut out the noise, cut out how many offers are on this property, and say, what is your best and final price? How much are you willing to spend for this property? And if it goes for $1 more than that, you can rest your head down on your pillow tonight and sleep easy, knowing that someone else paid more than you were willing to pay for this property. So keeping you focused on your goals is definitely my first priority, because this can get quite emotional for a lot of buyers, and I want to keep my clients as grounded as possible, as focused as possible. And that starts with determining what I feel the fair market price for the property is. Now, when we submit your offer, it needs to be what we call best and final. Sometimes you may have an opportunity as a buyer to improve your offer, maybe to tighten up your condition dates or adjust the possession date, or maybe say, hey, the seller will say, hey, you're very close with another offer, and can you do any better? Maybe you'll have that opportunity. But the majority of the time, everyone is submitting their best and final offers, and that means not leaving any money on the table, okay? If we see a property that's listed at $495 and we've determined that $510 is as high as you're willing to go, you need to write at $510, because if we write at $508 or $507 and you say, well, we'll see, maybe we'll go up if we get the chance, you may not get that chance. And so if you were willing to spend $510 on the property, it's important to put your best and final offer in front of the sellers and write at $510. So we've seen a lot of multiple offers this year at our brokerage, and CIR has put together some pretty awesome stats on that. Just looking at the numbers here, CIR collected 188 entries, and the highest number of offers received on a property was 33 offers, and it sold for 71 grand over list price. And the largest price jump between list price and sale price was $120,000 over list price. Now, all of these 188 entries were collected from various markets all over Alberta, but when it comes down to it, 188 is not a whole lot. This only accounts for just over 1% of the residential transactions that took place in 2023. For those of you that are concerned about getting beat out by someone that's writing an unconditional offer, when we see 2 offers on a property, 82% of those offers had conditions. Okay, so there's not a ton of unconditional offers going around. Now we look at properties that had 3 offers on them. Now this is 50 transactions that were analyzed within CIR, 102.97% of list price. Of course, the more offers we see on a property, the higher above list price we see the property sell for. Jumping up to 7 to 10 offers on a property, 21 transactions were analyzed for this. We still see that about half of these offers that were accepted did have conditions on them, even with 7 to 10 offers in place. We see a sale price to list price ratio of 107.71%. The more offers, the higher we see the sale price go compared to list price. Now we jump all the way up to 11 plus offers. This is a lot of offers on a home, and this is probably in the early spring market when we were the most competitive. This was only 16 transactions that were analyzed. 81% of these 16 transactions still had conditions on them, but 100% of the buyers paid above list price. Of all the information that CIR pulled, I think the most important information that I look at when we see two competing offers on a property, it adds about half a percentage point per offer to the purchase price. And when we see competing offers, 3 or more written on a property, it adds 0.97%. So basically 1% per offer to the final purchase price of a property. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean you can use this as a hard and fast rule that if you have 5 offers on a property, you can expect to pay an additional 5%, but it is a good guideline. It is good to keep in mind. And I'm happy that our brokerage put these numbers together. So there you have it. That's how we can make your offer as competitive as possible. We'll start with giving that possession day. Secondly, we're gonna make sure that you've got financing in place. You're gonna be pre-approved. We're gonna see, depending on what type of property and what your buyer profile is, whether or not you're gonna have a condo doc review, whether or not you feel confident writing without a property inspection. And then of course, we're gonna determine what your purchase price is. We're gonna forget about the noise. We're gonna forget about the distractions, although we will keep in mind that if we have 3, 4, or 5 offers, that may determine how far above list price we need to write your offer. We stay focused on your goal, we stay focused on the market, and at the end of the day, we don't overspend, and we make sure that when you move in, you are confident that you've paid what you feel a property is worth. Thanks for watching this video. Thanks for sticking around. Again, I think you should probably go check out my other video. It's on multiple offers from the listing side. Even as a buyer, I think it's important that you understand what the sellers are thinking and how they're setting up themselves for success as well. Then you get an idea of what everyone in the transaction is thinking, and this is going to set yourself up for success the next time you find yourself in a multiple offer situation. Thanks for watching.